Good morning, everyone. We will call our County Council meeting to order this morning at 9:04 a.m. Thank you, staff and council, for joining us this morning. In the true spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge all those who call this land home now and for thousands of years in the past. May we respect each other and find understanding together and recognize the benefits that this land provides to all of us. Just have a couple notes that I wanted to start off with before we get into things. First off, I want to acknowledge and extend condolences to the family of former councillor Bob Horvath. I was fortunate to come on to council in 2017. Klaus and I and Bob were the new councillors that term, and it was a pleasure to get to work with Bob. He always had a positive and an upbeat manner to him. He loved his community. He was extremely proud of Sunnyside, where he grew up, where he farmed. Extremely proud of the work that his family and extended family had done in the agricultural committee over the years. Was a solid member of the community, involved in the Italian Canadian Club, 4-H, a number of other initiatives in the community. I know that Bob's health was never great. Bob was fought health challenges from the day he was born, I think, and he always took it in stride, was positive about it. My first memory of Bob on council was we went down to Milk River for an ASB meeting. We were both new to council, and he asked me if I could give him a ride, and so I gave him a ride, and that was my first experience with Bob, and I remember laughing and just he was talking about all the health challenges he had, and he just kind of like water off a duck's back. And so I think there's there's a lesson to be said there about just resiliency and looking at the bigger picture in life in general and just enjoying life. I know he was a huge supporter of their son Kyle and everything that Lindy did and the family. So just want to extend condolences to the family and just thank Bob for his time, his commitment to the county, and everything he did to make our community better. So thank you. Sure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, John. One other quick item, for everyone listening at home. We do currently have an economic development survey up. There is a link on our website. The county is actively going out to the community looking for their feedback on the county's economic development, how we move forward with that. So please take some time. It's a short survey. And that'll help us, and when council goes into that discussion later this fall, help to give us some direction. So thank you. With that, we can get into our agenda. Why don't we, do you want to start with, is everyone here, or, sorry, John?
I was just going to move that we adopt the agenda.
Why don't we start in order, eh? Let's try that. Why don't we move down to item B, adoption of our agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to our agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the agenda. Everybody. John? You did. John has moved to adopt the agenda of our Thursday, August 3rd council meeting as presented. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Moving down, item C, adoption of our minutes, the county council meeting minutes from July 6, 2023. Are there any errors, omissions, or any issues arising from the minutes? Claus.
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Claus. Claus has moved for the adoption of the county council meeting minutes, July 6, 2023, as presented. Is there any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Why don't we have a little bit to go till 9:15, so why don't we move down and we can start on our subdivision applications. Item E1, subdivision application 2023-0-075, Bezooyen. With that, I will throw to Hillary Jansen. Hillary, good morning. Morning, Steve.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Council. We have 3 subdivisions to review with the Subdivision Authority today. The first being Subdivision 2023-0-075 for Bezooyen. They are looking to, there was a discrepancy in the title. It should have been the Northeast 32, not 23. So Northeast 32, 819 west of the 4th, which is just to the south and east of the town of Coaldale. The applicant is looking to, they currently have a existing subdivision out of that quarter section, and they are looking to split that current subdivision into 2. They are looking to split it in, it's 20 acres in size, and they would like to split it into a 7.2 and 11.4 acre lots. This proposal does meet the county's requirements for a split of an existing title. And with that, I will get Steve to go through the planning comments and the recommendation.
Mr. Chair, Council, this first application in front of you has 2 components, I guess. The main component is that they're looking to resplit the existing parcel there into 2. The applicant actually applied for this back in 2012 and received approval for it, but at that time they just never carried through with the subdivision finalization and endorsement of it, and left it here for the last 11 years or so. So they're looking to do it at this time, and just due to the time lapse of that application, it can't be registered at land titles. So unfortunately they have to apply again here and put it in front of the current subdivision authority to get approval on that. So the application is basically the same as it was back in 2012. They're looking here, as you can see in the diagram, the proposed west, a little bit smaller, 7.24 acre parcel contains an existing yard there, with a tree shelter belt and a few improvements on there. The east portion is currently vacant. That'd be a larger parcel, just under 11.4 acres. At one time, many years back, there was a hog barn located on the east portion. That was removed probably more than 15 years ago or so, but has remained vacant ever since. So with that, one of the components to look at is the applicant, and as far as they're aware, has never formally applied with NRCB to decommission that. So that would be one of the steps that they would have to formally forfeit any permit rights for there. If an approval is given on that, just to kind of clear that off and ensure that there's no permit rights continued on for an acreage. The other part of the application involves just a slight boundary adjustment. The boundary to the west is just being relocated about 7.6 meters, just about 25 feet, just to capture the trees on the west side. And they've negotiated a deal with the landowner with the quarter section that in turn they'll give them the same equal amount of land on the south side there, so it's an equal kind of land swap there to adjust for those trees. So that would be a property boundary alignment as well with that. So one of the things with this application as well is that on the north side there, the access is, at least for the west portion there, currently is off of Highway 512. So the application was referred to Alberta Transportation. Alberta Transportation has no concerns or objections to the proposal, but similar to what they did with the 2012 application, they are asking for a service road to be dedicated by Caveat. So it just means it's registered on title to protect it for the future across the road frontage along 512 there. A 20-meter wide service road is one of the conditions if the subdivision authority was to approve the subdivision. So with that, the application itself conforms to the bylaw for the resplit of a title 20 acres less in size, similar to it did back in 2012. During the referral, there was no objections or concerns received on it. Alberta Transportation granted the county authorization to grant an approval So with that, I have recommended approval to you. One of the things on this application is there would be a municipal reserve payment applicable, because they're re-subdividing. That evaluation came in at $22,000 per acre. So the county, that does equate to about $40,920 they'd have to pay the county in the municipal reserve payment. So that would be one of the conditions of approval. So with that, I have recommended approval to you with the conditions of the municipal reserve paid, taxes paid up to date, development agreement be entered into the county, the final plan survey that they provide in writing from the NRCB that they've relinquished any permit rights for hog operation, and that the Alberta Transportation's request for the caveat for the service road be provided.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Hillary. Are there any questions from council? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not really directly related to this, but given that they applied for the subdivision in 2012, how long after the subdivision is approved would they have to actually register it under normal circumstances?
Yeah, you've, in response to Councilor Cruz's question, under the Municipal Government Act, they have 1 year to register their planned subdivision at land titles. There is a clause there that the subdivision authority can approve an additional time, so they can come back for it if they need another year, which sometimes happens. Sometimes with ones involved in engineering or things like that, sometimes they need additional time. So that's so it does happen sometimes. But once that, if they did apply for a second time extension and expired, then they have to come back and go through the process. The other thing is that the length of time, it's typically that even once time extension is granted, or if they haven't finalized it, that anything beyond 5 years is stale dated. So they have to reapply and go through the process, whatever, just because of the time involved, or if things change on the land with utilities, or whatever the case might be. So, thank you.
Right, John?
Now, that being all said, and I appreciate you indulging my question that's not really directly related to this, but I would like to move that subdivision application 2023-0-075 be approved subject to conditions as outlined in the draft resolution.
Thank you, John. Is there any further discussion? Eric, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Alberta Transportation, I guess, has the final authority on it, but I don't see an access point. How is that dealt with for Lot 2?
There is an access off of the Range Road.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Thank you, Hillary. So John has moved the recommendation that subdivision application 2023-0-075 be approved subject to the conditions as outlined in the draft resolution. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Hillary. We'll just pause our subdivision applications for the time being, and we'll move to item D in our agenda, delegations. We have a 9:15. We have our bursary award recipients with us today. So we have Abigail Jaquetta, Elena Vukovic, and Emma Rurink with us this morning. So thank you all for coming. I think what our processes will be is we'll have you come up front here, we'll present the bursaries inside, take a quick picture, and then if it's all right with everyone, we'll go outside and take a group photo in front of the county sign. Lethbridge County is obviously very excited to be able to offer the bursaries. We've been very fortunate to have great uptake, a lot of just tremendous applications, and obviously your three shone above the rest, so thank you very much. With that, I'll throw to Councillor Hickey. Lauren chaired our bursary committee, and maybe just Lauren, if you have any comments or anything you'd like to add.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Reeve. And I'd like to congratulate the three winners. It was a difficult decision. We had an excellent group of candidates this year, and it is based not only on your educational marks and your scholarship achievements, but also on your commitment to the community and your volunteer services. And you all seem to be very supportive of the community and caring about what you do and are going to do in the future.
Thank you, Lauren. again, thank you for applying. Thank you for what you've done to this point. Thank you for your commitments to Lethbridge County and the greater community. And, we're all very excited to see what's next. And I'm sure there's big things ahead. So thank you. If it's all right, I'll have you come up one at a time. We'll just get a quick picture. First off, Abigail. Thank you, everyone. We will reconvene our meeting at 9:25 this morning, and we can move down to, in our subdivision applications, E2, subdivision application 2023-0-083, Androkovich. Hillary, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this second subdivision for your consideration today is a subdivision of a first parcel out of an existing quarter section. They are requesting a 5.74 acre title out of the quarter as per the application that you have before you. I'll just pull up the map here. So this is the main quarter section, and they're looking to take out one of the residences that is on the parcel, and then leave the remaining improvements on the existing title, or on the quarter section, sorry. And with that, I will get Steve to go through the comments and the recommendation. There we go.
Mr. Chair, the next application in front of you is to take first subdivision out of a quarter section. It's for a, I guess you could say, portion of a farmyard. As you can see in the photo on the screen there, the landowners have kind of an extensive area of the yard, if you want to call it that, outside the irrigation pivot area, on the kind of middle west portion there, with a couple dwellings on there. There was, over a couple months, they kind of came back and forth a few times trying to determine exactly what they wanted to do and how they wanted to subdivide. I guess the family settled on this configuration that's in front of you. So what they're looking to take out is a dwelling area, and then there's some multiple sheds and buildings in the dugout there. In that middle area touches the road allowance on the west side as part of the separate subdivision title they would like, which involves the 5.74 acres. As you can see from the photo, there will be a number of agricultural buildings, some animal shelters, grain bins, and a second residence that will remain as part of the remnant quarter section title. This application is for the first subdivision out of the quarter section. The access is provided from the West Municipal Road Allowance, which is Broxburn Road. There's an existing approach in place there. There's also an existing access there that will provide to the remnant yard area and to the dwelling that's staying on the north side there as well. So with this application, there's no issues with any abandoned gas wells or confined feeding operations in proximity where there's any MDS issues or any compromise. There are some animal shelters out there and located kind of in the southeast corner, but they were associated with a seasonal cow-calf operation. It was never a full permitted confined feeding operation, so it meets the criteria of the bylaw in that manner. During the referral of this application, there was no objections or concerns received. On the earlier draft that I recently came out to you, there's just kind of a condition there for the easements for utility companies. But we've since heard back from all of them, and there's no easements required, and there's no objections to the subdivision. So with that, I have recommended approval to you as a first parcel subdivision. The parcel sizes comply with the bylaw. There you're subdividing contains their septic system, so it won't be out on remnant land. So it meets all the criteria of the bylaw for a yard subdivision coming out. So with that, I have recommended approval to you with the standard conditions of the taxes being paid up to date, and development agreement entered into county if required, and that the final plan survey based on any approval you may give matches and is submitted for part of the final endorsement.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any questions from council? Lauren, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. Two questions, I guess. The two dairies that exist on the west side of the road, are they grandfathered, their licenses, or are they been rendered out of action, or do you know?
Yeah, the one is out of action. And the other one, the numbers are small enough that they would have to apply to NRC to expand if they want to get any larger than what it is. So currently, the MDS is not impacted or affected by this. It's outside the distance. Now, at one time, the NRCB had, if an operation was out of commission for a year, that they had to reapply to start up. The NRCB, under the OPA, that rule got took out a number of years back. But if they're to do any expansion, they would have to apply to the NRCB for that.
Both of them have been out of commission for quite some time.
They're both out of commission.
Pardon me?
They're both out of commission.
Yeah. With that, I would move the application, subdivision application 2023-0-083 as outlined in the your notes.
Lauren has moved the recommendation that subdivision application 2023-0-083 be approved subject to the conditions as outlined in the draft resolution. Is there any further discussion? John?
Just one small question regarding access, because the new proposed subdivision, the access for the residential yard seems to be wholly and solely on that particular parcel. So is there potential at a later date that if that property gets sold off to another party, that there's going to be a need for another access off of the road?
Thank you through the chair to Councillor Kurbis. So with regards to this, we would, when we're looking at the requirements for a development agreement, we would look at the access that they have. And if they don't have an access to that second residence, we would request that they put in a standalone access for that particular part of the parcel.
Any further discussion? Motion has been made that subdivision application 2023-0-083 be approved subject to the conditions as outlined in the draft resolution. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Steve. Moving down, item 3 under our subdivision application 2023-0-085, Van Hierden, Block Z, Plan 6150Y. Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this last subdivision of the day is to subdivide out a 0.07 acre parcel from an existing title of 0.65 acres within the hamlet of Monarch. The intent of the subdivision is to subdivide out a utility installation that is in that particular corner of the parcel. It's been there for a great many years, and the current landowner and the utility provider are looking to sever that so that they can have a dedicated parcel, just probably for ease of access and use of that particular utility. So with that, it does, there are some considerations for council with regards to the parcel size, but I will let Steve go through the planning comments and the recommendation.
And Mr. Chair, this next application in front of you is not as one that is as commonly seen as we do more with the residences and agriculture parcels and such, but this is a application for a utility infrastructure site. It's on the corner of the former Hamlet gas service station parcel that has been out of operation for decades. And I did provide you some pictures in your package. I just kind of give you a visual of kind of the site, what we're dealing with. So the very southwest corner contains private utility instruction for Bell Communications. This portion of land has been leased for many years, but the communications company is looking to purchase from the landowner and just own it themselves. The subdivision application in front of you, it follows that existing fencing basically installed around the communication infrastructure. And it's approximately a 58 by 58 foot, it's almost square in size parcel. The site is accessible from either Hamlet Street, it's on the corner there. It has a gate opening south onto Queen Street. to the fence there, so. So as a private utility infrastructure parcel, there's no needs for any municipal water and sewer to be provided. It doesn't even require any servicing. Under the subdivision criteria, any utilities or public works or that type of thing, the parcel size is at the discretion of the subdivision authority. There's no set parcel size. That's due just to the fact that there's different types of infrastructure and different types of needs. So it's more of a case-by-case basis on what the proposal is or the infrastructure, what you're looking at to determine if it's suitable or not. But with that being said, the lot itself is zoned as a Hamlet commercial, with that being the former gas station site there. And under the bylaw, the Hamlet commercial zoning does require a 15 by 100 foot site or overall 1,500 square feet. So based on the Hamlet commercial zoning, it would, this parcel would need a slight waiver, because that zoning would just stay through on there and carry on. I will mention, it doesn't really affect this subdivision because it's not for a commercial use, putting in a restaurant or anything like that. But being the former gas station service site, just so you're aware that once the Monarch gas station did cease operation, the site was reclaimed. They did have an environmental assessment. Phase 2 was completed on it, and there was no contamination found. So the site is considered good for development. No further remediation on there was required at that time. So with that, one of the things with this application as well, because of the old Highway 3A now, is still going through Monarch there, is under the direction and control of Alberta Transportation. As this parcel fronts onto there, Alberta Transportation approval wasn't required, and they have granted that and have no concerns or issues with the subdivision. So on that basis, no objections or concerns received. I have recommended approval to you. There are no easements or required by any utility companies. So I have recommended approval to on the basis of taxes paid up to date, development agreement, and a final plan of survey from Alberta Land Surveyor.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions from council? Lauren and then John.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. So just a question on the lots that are in behind those numbers 12, 13, up to 16. Are they actually lots, or can they be built that close to that utility, or?
Sorry, I'll just zoom out on the map here, Councillor Hickey. So that particular parcel, so those lots that are behind the old gas station and hotel area, that's one parcel. It's not multiple.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
it's all
okay.
been consolidated together into one title.
Thank you.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the unlikely event that this wants to be, they want to decommission this site and then just convert it back to a commercial spot, are there any challenges with somebody else buying it and then building on it because of its small size?
Hillary might have additional answer for that, but basically at time of development, if anybody comes in, whatever proposal, if it's not a utility communication infrastructure, that proposal is looked at in regards to the bylaw standards, and what the uses are allowed and setbacks and all that sort of a thing. So it would have to try to fit that box in order for it to be something other than the utility infrastructure, unless the development authority is willing to give, waivers of something if it was required.
Yeah, just in addition to that, Councillor Kurbis, yeah, it is substandard in size, so that would definitely be if they were to say take off all the infrastructure and somebody were to come in and want to put in a business, they may be challenged just with the size in itself to put up any structure. So they might have to then talk to that other landowner to maybe increase the size to put on a building, but I guess we can't foresee the future, but I mean, it seems like the infrastructure there is fairly permanent, at least for the, next number of years, so.
Any further questions? Klaus, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll move that subdivision application 2023-0-085 be approved, subject to parcel size waiver being granted and the conditions as outlined in the draft resolution.
Thank you, Klaus. Klaus has moved the recommendation that subdivision application 2023-0-085 be approved, subject to a parcel size waiver being granted and the conditions as outlined in the draft resolution. Is there any further discussion? Not, I'll call a question. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you.
We do have a 10 a.m. public hearing scheduled this morning, so we'll skip over that for right now and move in our agendas under G, Department Reports, G1, Community Services, G1.1, Joint Use and Planning Agreements, Palliser School Division, and Westwind School Division Agreements. And I believe that is Hillary.
That's me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, under the Municipal Government Act, the province has required that every municipality, including rural municipalities, has to enter into what they call a joint use and planning agreement with any school division that is within their boundaries, or touches their boundaries or overlaps their boundaries. They had provided a date of June 2023 as the date that these had to be in place. This March, I guess, seeing that this wasn't moving forward in a fashion that they thought was going to meet that timeline, the province did provide an extension to have these agreements in place by June of 2025. In the meantime, I had contacted all of the school boards that are within Lethbridge County or service Lethbridge County, and sat down, Larry Randall and I sat down and talked to all of them about this particular project. Some of them were somewhat unaware of these requirements, and some of them were aware of them but hadn't really moved forward on them. So just in order to be proactive, we met with them, and I stated that I would draft the agreements based off of some templates that another municipality had drafted and try and move this forward. So with regards to the school divisions that we have within our boundaries, we have 3. There is the main one, which is Palliser School Division, which all of us, I think, are aware of. They operate all in the county. They have schools in the county, and they have schools within the towns that are within the boundaries of the county. And then there's the Holy Spirit Roman Catholic School Division. Their boundaries are a little bit more ad hoc, not quite the whole county, but portions of the county. There are students that attend the Catholic schools within the city of Lethbridge, but they service the county. And the third is the Westwind School Division. That's also a public school division, and it's a very small area in the south end of the county that services. There's, I guess, a few families who still have kids that would go, say, to the McGrath or Raymond schools. So that's where the Westwind School Division is. So in discussing the agreements with them, they are all on board with regards to the template that I had used and drafted the individual agreements. To date, the Palliser School Division and Westwind School Divisions have signed that agreement. The Holy Spirit Roman Catholic School Division has to bring it back to their board in the fall, so there was a bit of a delay there. But since these ones were already in the queue, I thought it would be prudent to get them forward for your consideration. So these agreements essentially are just looking at, okay, so what does the school have? What does the county have? Can there be shared services? So with regards to the Westwind School Division, they have no buildings, no schools in the county. So the agreement was pretty much just saying, hey, we recognize each other and that there's a service there. But really, there's no schools that the county would ever utilize or any buildings that the school division would utilize in the county. So the agreement was pretty straightforward. With the Palliser School Division, because there are currently 2 schools within the county, the agreement was a little bit more in-depth with regards to how the county and the school divisions would work together with regards to those school sites. So If there was a need for a new school, these provisions are in the MGA, but this kind of just fleshes them out just a little bit more as to how the county and the school division can interact. And so what they have in them is the planning, development, and use of school sites on dedicated school site properties. The transferring, so if those schools were closed, how we would deal with if the municipality wanted to take over that building or structure, or how that would work, so that there's some verbiage in there about that. And then the use of the school facilities, and conversely, the use of county facilities for the schools. So in this agreement for the Palliser, what I have included is the schools themselves, and then any municipal facilities that perhaps the schools might use. So really, the Huntsville School is the one that was most, it's the newest, it has the newest infrastructure. The agreement would be that if, say, we needed a meeting, we would be able to use that facility, obviously with their permission. And conversely, if they wanted to use one of our playing fields out in Iron Springs or in Turin, that they would be able to use that. And so we have this reciprocal agreement. Really, this is just paperwork to establish something that we already do. So that's pretty much the gist of it. And we tried to keep them as simple as possible. We haven't necessarily had a very, I wouldn't say, we haven't met with the school divisions regularly to discuss any opportunities or concerns, but this allows us for that more, have a better discourse with them. And when we get the Holy Spirit Roman Catholic School Division one in the future, it's going to be kind of with the same flavor, just that we can work together. One thing that the school divisions may or not have realized in the past was that we have municipal reserve funds that can go towards capital projects, and that includes at a school site, and so they can apply to the county for that. They've always had that opportunity. This just kind of lets them know that that they can take that next step, send a letter, council considers it, you can say yes or no depending on the project. But they were, I think that kind of piqued their interest a little bit in terms of with their funding situations, as they were, that this could be a good opportunity for the county to support schools within our area, or students within our area. So with that, I have put forward these two agreements for your consideration, and the recommendations that I have provided is that County Council approve the joint use and planning agreement with the Palliser School Division, and also the joint use and planning agreement with the Westwind School Division. Mr. Chairman, I'll put it back to you.
Thank you, Hillary. Is there any questions from council? John?
Are we looking for two separate resolutions here, motions?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, then I'd happily move that the county council approve the joint use and planning agreement with the Palliser School Division.
Thank you, John. Is there any discussion? Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have under financial impact none identified, and reading through it, I see that there's an insurance component that both parties need to carry. And I'm guessing we already are. I know we already have coverage far exceeding that. Do we still have to list each site on our policy, and does it complicate things at all having that in here now?
I don't believe so. From an insurance perspective, all of our facilities would be listed on our insurance policy with RMA already. So I think that this is just...
Do we have to put their facilities that we might use under the policy?
They would have their own insurance, and so I don't think that there would be an issue, but if you want, I can talk with Amelia about that further.
Not a major concern, but it was something that piqued my interest.
Okay.
Jen, go ahead.
I can just add that we do have through RMA a pretty good liability insurance on top of that. And if we were to use the facility, we can do an event sort of insurance on one-off times if we need to. So I don't think, though, that we'd be required to add them as an additional named insured in this case, though. But we can confirm.
And my understanding is that when we've used the schools in the past for, say, certain events, or our community halls for certain events, is that they have kind of been included in our insurance already. So, because we have had open houses and used them for elections and things in the past. So.
Thank you, Hillary. Is there any further discussion? John has moved the recommendation that County Council approve the joint use and planning agreement with the Palliser School Division. No further. I will call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. And the second. Mark?
I'd like to move the recommendation that the county council approve the joint use and planning agreement with the Westwind School Division.
Thank you, Mark. Mark has moved that county council approve the joint use and planning agreement with the Westwind School Division. Any discussion? Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. So I'm just not quite clear as to why we would want to get into a division that's not within the bounds of the municipality.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey, through the chair. So they actually are in the county. They just don't have a school in the county, but there's students within Lethbridge County that attend schools in McGrath and Raymond. So as per the Municipal Government Act, we have to enter into agreement with them because they are inside. A portion of the county is covered by the Westwind School Division. So that's how the legislation is written.
Just to follow up on that, I would, where would that be?
Oh, I wish I would have brought my map. Sorry, I'll show you where it is. It's a very small area. Councillor Hickey, in your division, no less. It is right where the Mercers are, and it falls under, I think, about 3 or 4 sections of land. Like, it really is quite tiny. But it's, I will just, let me get my map to go to that. Yeah, so I do believe that there's a few farm families whose kids get bused into McGrath and Raymond to go to school there. So there's this overlap. And in, just so you know that when we discussed kind of this process with Palliser School Division, Dexter Durfee, he actually used to work for Westwind, and he thought at some point in time Palliser might actually approach Westwind to see if they wanted to move that boundary so that they didn't have to have part of it in the county. But at this point in time, you know, we're just dealing with what we have. So that's kind of why we moved forward in this regard.
Thanks, Hillary. Mark has moved the recommendation that county council approve the joint use and planning agreement with the Westwind School Division. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary. It is 9:52. We have a 10 a.m. public hearing. Why don't we take a short recess to take us till 10 a.m. and we will resume with our public hearing. We're here today to hold the public hearing for Bylaw 23-019, road closure sale and consolidation. I would ask for a motion to open the public hearing. Klaus has moved to open the public hearing for Bylaw 23-019. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Public hearing is being held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act as amended. The public hearing is being live streamed via the county's YouTube page. Public hearing for Bylaw 23-019 is now officially open. I'll now ask the Supervisor of Planning and Development to review the nature of the hearing and provide an overview of what is being proposed. Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regards to Bylaw 23-019, an application has been made to close a portion of Township Road 10-0 directly east of Range Road 23-3, as shown on the map in your agenda package. It has been determined that this road is no longer required as part of the county road network, and the road closure would not impact any other landowners. Currently, there's the road in question is being cultivated and farmed by the landowner that has lands up to both the north and the south of the road area. If the road closure were successful, this road would be consolidated with the adjacent properties and all the titles would be consolidated together. I circulated this application to Alberta Transportation and they had no objections with the county proceeding with the closure, sale, and consolidation of portion of Township Road 10-0. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Hillary. This is council's opportunity to receive input from the public. I'm going to say this, but I don't feel I have to. Those making presentations are asked to state their name and review their points. We ask that you refrain from asking questions of council. The intention of the public hearing is not to debate or defend the contents of the bylaw or the position held which individual councillors may have on the bylaw. Questions asked of a councillor by a presenter may be ruled out of order. Presentations to council start with the applicant who has made the submission, followed by any other persons wishing to comment on the proposal. We ask that you keep your comments brief and to the point. I would ask, is there anyone wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw at this time? Is there anyone wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? And a third time, is there anyone wishing to speak to the proposed bylaw? If there's nothing further, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing. John. John has moved to close the public hearing for Bylaw 23-019. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We can resume our public meeting at 10:03 this morning. And I would open it up to council for how you would like to proceed. John.
I'd like to move that bylaw 23-019 be sent to the Minister of Transportation for approval.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion?
Just a question, staff, that are you approaching these people if they to take over these roads that are not used at all anymore?
The administration isn't actively approaching landowners. Some of these have come up kind of on an ad hoc basis. This one came up, the landowner had previously discussed closing this portion of road, and then when a subdivision that was done on this property to the south was, when they looked into that, I had suggested to them that they could look into closing this road as they were farming it, and it didn't seem suitable, and they said yes, they agreed to that. So
Okay, just follow up. Just out of curiosity, why was that road there?
it was part of the original township road, range road surveying, so it was just a remnant from the original survey plan, and then it was never closed and consolidated when they redid the alignment for River Ridge Road and Highway 3.
Any other questions, comments? John has moved the recommendation that bylaw 23-019 be sent to the Minister of Transportation for approval. Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you.
Move down in our agendas. Item G 1.2, Planning and Development Department Second Quarter Report 2023. Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Lots of time in today.
Yeah, I think this is my last one. So it's, with regards to the Planning and Development Department, we bring forward a quarterly report just to inform County Council of the activities of the Planning and Development Department. And then for an opportunity if there's any specific questions that come out of council from that report. So with regards to our the Planning and Development Department, we do take our direction from all the statutory plans and bylaws and guiding documents that have been approved by County Council either by bylaw or by resolution. Mainly this includes our statutory documents, which is our municipal development plan, our intermunicipal development plans, and the land use bylaw and area structure plans. We also manage, or the Planning and Development Department manages the issuance of development permits, amendments and updates to the land use bylaw, as you see regularly, any planning projects that are deemed necessary for the county, intermunicipal relations and referrals, road closures and licenses, land sales and leases, and then the enforcement of the land use bylaw and any other planning regulations. So up to, for the second quarter, we had a few projects that we're working on. We started the review of the land use bylaw. As you recall, on May 30th, we had a workshop with County Council first workshop with County Council for the land use bylaw update. Steve Hardy and I are working on those amendments, and we'll be having a second workshop in September to go through kind of the next part of the land use bylaw and probably bring forward some of our recommended changes that we had discussed at that May 30th meeting. In partnering with the town of Tabor, with regards to that rural renewal stream, the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, Larry and I had gone out to the town of Tabor in May to discuss this particular program and their appetite for having the county partner with them. They were more than happy to have the county submit a letter, which I brought forward to County Council previously, to move forward with that. I haven't received an update, but I'm probably our CAO will be in contact with the town with regards to how that project is working in that partnership. And the last thing that I have as a project is that we commenced the transfer of the land for the Riverbrink subdivision. It was a public it wasn't a public, it was just a pond that was used for their own private use for their water. That was determined through with our Public Works Department to that we could dispose of that land, and so the homeowners association there has agreed to that, and so we've started that process with our legal representation. With regards to the Development Authority, I won't go through all the numbers. I'll just do some highlights. We did have 136 development permit applications for the first part of this year. This is slightly above what we had last year, but not as much as we had in like 2021, which was when we had a large increase in applications. Most of our applications that we receive are for residential and accessory use. We did have a number of commercial industrial applications. Those, I will just state, aren't necessarily for new buildings, but they could be for, say, a new business coming into the county, or change of use, maybe in addition to an existing structure. The most notable one, as County Council is aware, was the expansion to McCain's, which Nathan and I handled with regards to the application in that process, and from what I understand, the construction should be underway. So I haven't been out there recently, but I heard they got all their Alberta environment approvals and they are moving forward with construction. So I think in the near future we'll probably be hearing from them with regards to maybe a formal groundbreaking type ceremony on that. In addition, Nathan, who is the development planner with the county, also deals with the compliance letters and any bylaw complaints. So compliance letters are just when a landowner needs to ensure that all the buildings on their property comply with the land use bylaw. We received 17 of those, and we've had 8 land use bylaw complaints that were received and being investigated. So that can be anything from neighbors concerned with a neighbor use, or something that we notice on our travels that doesn't align with the land use bylaw. With regards to building permits, we have a contract with Park Enterprises with regards to the issuance of all of our safety codes permits. I've listed the issued permits for the second quarter of this year. I think it's going down. There isn't as many permits being issued, but that's just because we're seeing less development permits being issued also. The Subdivision Authority, County Council acting as the Subdivision Authority, has approved 18 subdivisions for the second quarter. We haven't had any refusals. We've had one development permit appeal, which was submitted in the second quarter and then was later withdrawn. So that was, we've been doing pretty well with appeals in terms of working with applicants and with regards to any conditions or any issues that we see with applications coming in. And for bylaws include things like road closures, area structure plans, and rezonings. We've had 9 of them come in so far this year that are in various stages of approval. Most of those have been approved. I also have a new application in for an area structure plan off of Highway 512 and a rezoning in that area, which I'll be bringing forward in September for Council's consideration of first reading. And lastly, one of the other main things that we do in the department is intermunicipal and external agency relations. So we review any applications that come into the county as a referral. So we've had 14 intermunicipal referrals so far this year. So that comes when the town or the city, when they have something along the boundaries that our IDP covers, they send it to us for review, make sure that they're meeting the terms of our agreements and that the county has no concerns from specifically a land use planning perspective. And then we have NRCB referrals. We've had 10 so far this year. We review those and provide comments. And so with those, I do send those out to other departments in the county. I don't act as an island in these referrals. I definitely send them out because specifically with the feedlots where, there could be implications to roads and the environment. So definitely input from our public operations department is valuable in that regard. With that, I guess the last notable would be the financial impact. The county has received, will have received, I think, up to date, $252,000 with some change with regards to safety codes permits this year. This is greatly increased from last year, and I will just note that is 100% due to the McCain's project. So with that, if there's any, I'll put it back to you, Mr. Chairman, if there's any comments or questions.
Thank you, Hillary. I'd open it up to council for any questions you might have. Go ahead, Morris.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. On this, our county council with the subdivision authority, but there are other municipalities, they haven't got that. They leave it up to basically staff. Mm-hmm. However, I like the way we have it because that keeps us as a council kind of up to date what's going on. Would that be like that with the other municipalities too, but haven't got the authority? Maybe they probably get notified anyways, but this way we go through it,
Yes, Councillor Zien, to the chair. Different municipalities definitely have a different take on how they deal with the development authority and the subdivision authority. Some municipalities have a municipal planning commission, which handles both of those in terms of approvals. Some, mostly I would say larger cities or larger towns will delegate their subdivision authority to, say, administration, just because of the volume that they would be seeing. It would be pretty onerous to review all of those applications. It would be like if we said council was the development authority for all the development permits, and you'd have to be reviewing 200 and some odd permits. That would take up an awful lot of council's time to do that. So I think at this point in time, our subdivisions are consistent, and it's definitely up to council to determine who you want to approve them. And acting as a subdivision authority has worked for the county for a great many decades. So, thank you.
Thanks, Morris. Thanks, Hillary. Any other questions for Hillary? If not, thank you very much, Hillary.
Thank you.
We can move down. Item G 1.3, we have our April to June 2023 Community Peace Officer Report.
Good morning, council.
Morning, David. How are you today?
Not too bad, and you all? Do I need to bring this up on the screen, or do you all have it in front of you? Because I might mess this up if I touch it. I'll just leave it be. Yeah, this is my the peace officer report for the months of April through to June. And there's no resolution required. This is for report purposes only. And council is welcome to ask questions at the end of the report. Just a bit of the background information. Lethbridge County has one full-time peace officer who provides education enforcement on a variety of Lethbridge County bylaws. I'm also authorized to enforce the Traffic Safety Act and regulations under the Act. During this reporting period, I was obviously part of the community services and reported to Larry Randall. There's a variety of duties I perform on a regular basis, some of which are highlighted below. Continually monitor and weigh commercial vehicles. Work closely with planning and development and public works. Continual education and enforcement on pivot end guns, watering the road, dog control, animal control, and unsightly premises cleanup. During that time period, there were a total of 70 case reports. So those case reports are either what I initiate or somebody calling in a complaint, which is then all documented. And it was comparable to the second quarter of 2022. So a lot of those are under the Highway Protection Bylaw. Those are mostly pivot end guns. And those are just the ones that obviously I talk to the landowner. There's many others that I don't ever get a chance to get to. And there's if I can't get in touch with the landowner, I send them out a warning letter, and then they call me back. When they get the letter, some of them call me back and, my pivot wasn't watering the road that day, and then we discuss it a little bit, and they find out, yes, it actually was. So hopefully, I'm just trying different strategies, and if I've got some that have numerous pivots and numerous issues, I actually go visit them on their property and just have a discussion with them and let them know how much it actually costs to repair, like for public works to come out and repair some of those soft spots, and hopefully it'll sink in with them and they'll take better care of their end guns. And I think I wrote like up to 4 tickets so far this season. Those were some of the ones that were blatantly, they simply they think it's dust control. They don't see it as an issue.
How much is the ticket that you issue then?
So for the first offense, it's $250, and if they pay it within the first 15 days, it gets reduced to, I believe, 120.
Just a quick visual, that's the number of pivot tracking marks we've actually targeted. One or two.
So it's definitely an issue. I mean, that we all know that there's no hiding that. So.
David, can I just? Are you finding that these are repeatedly the same offenders, or is it, does it get spread around?
It's both. Some are repeat offenders, others are not. And if I know someone, like I've got it highlighted here in one of my paragraphs, but there are some out there that have a lot of pivots, and they genuinely care. So I have a little bit of more leeway or sympathy for them if one of them goes out of adjustment or they have a failure. But it's the ones that, no, we want to get every last inch, every last corner. Those are the ones that it's kind of difficult to get through to them.
Go ahead, Morris, and then Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. How many of these watering roads are being reported by either found out by you or being reported by someone else? Is it?
Oh, the majority of them are reported by someone else.
Yeah.
Jeremy?
I just want to commend David, he's done a great job actually responding to these as well as landowners. Or sometimes the most
And then we go down to dog control bylaw. That comes and goes in spurts. I can go 2 months without hearing of a dog, and then it's 2 weeks of nonstop. I'm not sure how I can figure that out, but lately it's been quiet, so I hope it stays that way. And then off-highway vehicle or motor vehicle collisions, when I sense over the radio that fire might need some help, I will attend if I'm in the area. But the off-highway vehicle is a concern with some youngsters coming out as young as 7 or 10. Like the other day I was out, this isn't part of this report, but I'll forget it by the time next report goes around, so I'll just mention it. But I was out on a township road with a heavy manure haul, and there's a 11-year-old kid coming out of the driveway just screaming out with a quad. And some of those roads are being traveled at a fast pace at times. If the stars had all lined up perfectly, I had a good chat with the mom about that situation. Hopefully that sinks in, so we can all play our part to educate citizens out there that, yes, those bikes can be on the road, licensed, registered, insured, and the proper age, of course. So we talked about the N-Gun Challenge, and I have established some, like I said, some key relationship with some landowners and has seen positive results. Violation tickets, I do receive numerous complaints for speeding or failing to obey stop signs, overweight commercial vehicles at various locations. 2 notorious locations for speeding are Township Road 9-2 at Stafford Lake, so if you come out there, make sure you have the speed limit, because I'm out there quite a bit. And
Thanks.
it's just a heads up. And Kip Road 9-4 between Highway 3 and 25 is, in the morning, some people go to work and they come home, and on weekends when I'm out there, I'm amazed at the speeds that are out on that road. And for the amount of time I spend out there, you would think that people would actually try and slow down, but I don't know, they don't. So during that time period, I got 4 dangerous high speeds. One was 147 in the 60 zone. That's out on Broxburn. And he came off Highway 3, and he just floored it, and I just happened to be in the area. 169, that was on Highway 25. 131, that was in the 70 zone up by Nobleford. 125 in the 50. Oh, that was leaving Butte. He was still well in the 50 on Highway 519. And those are notorious. Like, they've had a few speeding tickets in their time, let's say. During that time, the season road ban was in effect, and again, Township Road 10-2 of Highway 23 going west is well posted with 75% road ban signs. I would just like to know how many actually get through there, because obviously I'm not there all the time, but they just blatantly ignore the signage and hope they don't get caught. And if they do get caught, it's up to a $16,000 fine. And I do get positive feedback from local ratepayers, as some others might not think that that's the way it is, but I do. There is people do appreciate the work that's being done out there. For training, I was away at the annual Alberta Municipal Enforcement Association conference in Calgary. I was also recertified on baton and OC and use of force as per the peace officer policy. And I've also presented the county staff on preventing encounters with an aggressive dog. That was part of the training I got at the conference. And I do work a variety of early morning shifts, evening shifts, and some weekends. And yeah, let's just say some are surprised when they find me on a gravel road on a weekend. So, joint force operations, I do work some with the Alberta sheriffs, who formerly work commercial vehicle, but they all fall under the sheriff branch now, and with our partners to the Southridge Regional Public Safety Services and the RCMP. I also do level 2 and 1 inspections on commercial trucks, 11 inspections were completed, 8 failed the inspection, and which is a 72% failure rate, which is steady across the board.
Is that pretty typical?
Yeah, it's very typical. Some of the more notable items are underinflated tires, brakes out of adjustment, emergency brakes on trailers not operative. I had one where the emergency brakes on the trailer and on the truck were not in operation. When I request the RCMP, they're always ready and happy to support me. And during that time period, there was 60,000 written in fines, which approximately 50% of that comes back to the county at some point. And that's the end of my report. Any questions?
Thank you, David. Any questions from council? Warren, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. So, this hasn't anything to do with this report, but do you get called out to people swimming in the canals, or is that somebody else's jurisdiction, or how does that work?
No, that is not my jurisdiction, and I do not get called out, but if I drive by and I happen to see someone in a canal, then I'll stop by and use it as an educational piece to get them to move on, and most times they comply. But to your question, that would more be the RCMP, I suppose.
Any other questions for David? Go ahead, Morris.
Yeah, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Looking at the, Dave just all by himself out down there, and the infractions he runs into, you almost wonder if we did have one time a second peace officer down there, and I wonder if us as a council, we should be looking into that again. That's all.
Thanks, Morris. Any other questions? Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. On these dangerous offenses, are we, I imagine some of them end up in court. Are we fighting? Are we successful? What's our outcomes looking like?
Yeah, so I can speak to the one in the 147. He got a $1,000 fine, which I was actually quite surprised that it wasn't a lot higher, but there's, I guess, other factors that come into play, and that's up to the prosecutors. Obviously, I have no say in that. The one in 169, he's a notorious speeder, so they gave him a $1,500 fine and a 30-day license suspension. So yeah, I've always, since my time here, I've been very successful in speeding. I don't think I've lost one yet. So, but most people, they go pay their tickets. So, but yes, they do take these very seriously, and I was just surprised that the fines weren't a little bit higher.
Anything else for David? Quick, Klaus.
So the total amount of revenue, 60,000. Is that from the last 3 months, or is that from the year?
No, that's the last 3 months.
Last 3 months?
And a lot of that is over, like, a lot of speeding, but a lot of overweight. Like during the road band season, when the road bands are on, and getting a semi on a road band, those are huge fines.
So do they pay per ton that they're over, or how does that work?
Per kilogram.
And how much is it?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask, because it's, it's all automated now, so it's, on a road band, it's, I believe I will stand to be corrected on that, but on a road band, if they're over 5,000 kilograms, which obviously they would all be, I believe it's now $47 per 100 kilo that they're over. If it's not on a road band, I would have to go back and look. It's like 30 kilograms, or $30 per 100 kilograms.
Jen?
I was just going to add with regards to the fine revenues. David writes, and we don't always get paid when they're written, so sometimes it can be delayed by several months. So the actual physical dollars in the bank doesn't always align with what's been written. Plus, they do take a victim services and another fee off of the fines before they're received by the county as well. But we do receive David's plus provincial if it's written within the county boundaries.
Anything else? Thank you, David. I would echo what you said. Despite the challenging nature of the work you do, I do believe that you are greatly appreciated. I know that the people at Stafford that often reach out to me are appreciative to see your presence there. And I know that the work that you're doing around end guns and that, I know it's challenging. I know there's a lot of chasing the tail, but I think just traveling these roads, you can tell. Unfortunately, when springtime comes around, you can tell where there has been a repeat offense. So, in the efforts of protecting our infrastructure, I applaud you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Thanks.
We can move down. We have another report this morning, G2, Finance and Administration, G2.1, our quarterly financial report, April to June 2023. And with that, we have our Director of Corporate Services, Jennifer Place. Jen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's always hard following David because his reports are a little bit more flashy, but I'll do my best to keep you entertained here. I'll just start on on the page with the dashboard, which is just a quick kind of visual summary of the overall quarterly financial reports. And also, I wanted to start with a bit of an update. I'm not sure if Council's aware, but Phil McFarland from KPMG has resigned from KPMG and is moving on to private industry. So we will have a new representative. Tawny Vincon is her name. I've spoken with her on the phone, but just with summer vacations and such, we're going to touch base, I think, later in the month of August. So I just want to give Council that little note that Phil has moved on, and he seemed really excited about the opportunity, so that's good for him. Just on this quick financial dashboard, it's kind of got the usual summaries of what's in more detail throughout the report. We did levy taxes at just over $24.5 million in early June. At the time of this report, which was June 30th, the payments were coming in slow. As you can see, we'd only collected 2.7. I thought for Council's interest, I pulled the numbers this morning. So in the last month, this includes business tax as well, which we levied 1.4 million of. We have collected, and I would say that the majority of this was within the last 2 weeks of July, up until yesterday, actually. We collected $16.8 million in payments just in tax and business tax. This doesn't include any other payments the county's received. 7.68 million of that was received at the front counter, and over 9 million of that was through direct payments or online payments. So the front staff have been very busy, obviously, managing this while also working in our new system. So there's kind of some crossover. So it's been an interesting time. They're doing great. With that said, our business tax as of today is sitting at about 95% collected already. We don't have all of our previously outstanding business tax has been paid, so it's all current. And as far as the general tax levies go, we're at about 80% collected, which is pretty good. So I figure, I'm estimating based on historical, and by end of year we'll be in that mid-90 range again for collections. So yeah, I just thought I would share that bit of news with Council this morning, because when you start looking at the dollars and what was left for cash on hand, it was, I don't want to say it was looking grim, but we were waiting for these payments to come in, obviously, because we're really busy with activities in operations, as well as capital projects are getting running and off the ground and nearing completion in some cases. So it is good to see that these funds have come in. As well, I'm sure Council's aware, with the prime rate having increased significantly over the past little bit, that also helps with our investment rates. So we're seeing some increases there. So if there's an opportunity, once we get some of the capital projects looked after and some of our grant funding in, to invest some more funds, we'll definitely take a look at some options there. So that's just a quick summary. On the next page, I just have kind of my consolidated summary. The estimates for the second quarter, again, kept them fairly conservative at this time. As I mentioned in the last quarterly report, the second and third quarter are generally our busiest, probably the third more than anything, with the July and August activities, again, in operations and with capital projects, specifically road projects. So we will have probably better estimates at the end of the third quarter. Just some noteworthy things I wanted to mention. Again, there is the increase in investment rate revenues, so that's a good news story, I guess, with the prime rate increases. We've, the anticipated Bank of Canada rates. I did include a economic update from Wood Gundy again. I think council has appreciated getting that information from Wood Gundy. I'm not an economist, or a investor, so I think it's good to have it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Let's see. As you know, the interest rates will be applied to the capital reserves at year end once we see where those dollars come in, and it's just based on a calculation using the average interest rate over the year. We do project a bit of a slight surplus in Ag Services already, and this is just based on the actuals to date and the dry weather that we're experiencing this year, as many of you are aware. But as summer progresses, we'll take a look at operations again. A slight deficit was noted within the CAO's budget. This is due to recruitment and transition costs. CAO's department also includes HR in there as well as CAO, so there's some costs associated with recruitment and transition, as council's aware. And we've also noted a slight deficit in the utility department. Although this is a self-funded, there's been some additional operational costs, which I'm sure Jeremy can speak more to, related to desludging, which was reported to council at one of the July meetings, CCTV of Broxburn Sanitary, and a consultant review of the wastewater treatment mound out there. So, as mentioned, the Director of Public Operations can speak further to that if council has more questions. But we are continually monitoring budgets. Regular reports are provided with regards to costing and where the departments are at. So on the next page, I think this is a nice summary as well, just a quick tax support by department summary, and then it's broken down again by revenue sources and then operating, transfers to reserves, and capital. So we're estimating at this time, to be within 97% of the projected budget, which I think is pretty good. The surplus that you see under finance and admin, again, is primarily related to the increase in investments, or anticipated increase in investments, but it will be transferred to reserves later on. The next page is just a further breakdown of the same information. It's just more detailed by expense type and revenue. And then, of course, following all of that, I just have sort of summarized the revenues earned and how that breakdown looks against the budget, same with the expenses. At this time, there isn't really a lot of surprises, obviously, to report or anything, I think, other than a few operational items that have come up. So no big surprises at this time. And then, of course, we get into the details, and I won't go through all of the details, as I'm sure council has their copy, but I was just going to scroll down to the grants here for council. Just a quick summary. So MSI, not a lot of changes there. We have received 1.388 of our capital MSI funding and 210 for the operations for the 2023 year. The local municipal initiative grant funding we were approved for, and that was for a specific project. So this freed up some reserve dollars that were previously assigned to a project because we were able to receive those. And then the Canadian Community Building Fund, which was formerly the Federal Gas Tax Fund. Also, our allocation for 2023 is $648,000. So no new grant announcements to make at this time, but we're always looking and seeing what's available. So, and then I've just a summary here that Amelia's put together of what dollars we have physically what approvals we have received to date on any of the grant applications that we've submitted. And then I've got the investment summary. Again, you can see that some of these interest rates I've updated based on the information I received as of June 30th, so it is looking much better in that sense than what we were looking at, the end of last year or even previous to that, where our rates were down in the, 1.8 to 2.5 range, I believe. So some increases there for sure. And then again, as I mentioned, we have the economic update from Wood Gundy. don't know if there's any specific questions on the financials. I'm happy to answer anything.
Thank you, Jen. I'd open it up to council if you have any questions. Good, Klaus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What are the interest rates doing right now, like on our GICs and stuff like that?
Just in the report there, I had included, in most cases, we're looking at 5% or better. Our high interest savings account, which is the most accessible one, I mean, they're all fluid, I guess, in the sense that we do have access to them, but that is at prime minus 1.8, I think I had on there. So I think prime is still at 6.9 or something. I might have my calculation a little wrong there, but yeah, so it has made a difference when you're, looking at 10 million plus in investments. That's a big difference.
Thanks, Jen. Any other questions? I just want to read from our posting on our website on the 24th. For the 13th consecutive year, Lethbridge County has been recognized by an international finance organization for excellence in municipal budget presentation. The Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, presented the county's 2023 budget document with its Distinguished Budget Presentation Award this month. Criteria are based on nationally recognized guidelines, including how well the document serves as a financial plan, operations guide, and communications device. So congratulations to you and your team, Jen.
Thank you.
13 years is an impressive run, and I know you take great pride in the documents that come out, and I know it's greatly appreciated by not only council, but the public as well. So congratulations and thank you. Anything else for Jen?
No speech.
If not, thank you very much, Jen. We can move down in our agenda. G3, administration. We have 2 administration items, G3-1, water co-op meeting update, and G3-2, AUC solar approval. I will start with G3.1, water co-op meeting update, and I will throw to our Water Commission Liaison Committee Chair, Councillor Mark Sayers. Mark?
Thank you, Reeve Campbell. So on July 27th, we had a meeting with the 3 potable water co-ops at the Diamond City Hall. We had a good representation out there. During the meeting, all the parties had the opportunity to express their concerns. Despite historical grievances, there was a collective acknowledgement of the benefits of working together collaboratively. There was a lot of discussion. All the co-ops had a chance for input. Those of us that were new to listen and develop an understanding. And as a result of the meeting, there was a general support for the formation of a subcommittee comprising 2 to 3 members from each organization aimed at facilitating more productive discussion concerning potable water in Lethbridge County. So by the end of the meeting, everybody was in agreement that we move ahead and to create the next level, the next committee, and set up a meeting with the representatives from each of the groups. So it was really positive, and we came away from that meeting feeling pretty positive about it. So coming out of that then, so I would move that the council send a letter to the 3 potable water co-ops to acknowledge the historic challenges that have existed in the past, while expressing our intention and commitment to work collaboratively together for the betterment of potable water management in Lethbridge County in the future.
Thank you, Mark. Mark has moved to direct administration to draft a letter to the 3 co-ops. I won't try and say what you said, Mark, but okay. Is there any further discussion? If not, sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So as not being present for any of that, that's quite okay. So we're going to acknowledge that we're putting the past behind us, rights, wrongs, whatever, and we're moving forward.
My takeaway from that was talking to some of the chairs of the other commissions. Yeah, that was the piece. We all had a chance to discuss and bring our concerns forward. But then at the end of the day, let's move forward and work together. And there was a general, a positive feeling I felt coming out of it. Everybody wants to work together. We're all in it for the right reasons. And that was really encouraging. So then it was let's call the first meeting, and then we can decide what a terms of reference looks like and get things pinned down to that. So it's all equal representation from all four groups, and that process seemed to be was supported by everyone, I felt. So, and I think after that first meeting, then we can get into it and move forward and sort of create. This is a new committee, but I was really encouraged by the positive feedback we were getting. So.
On that note, so if we're acknowledging historical differences, I'd like to add to the motion that all of council puts their signature down on it and that we bear the burden together. We are in this together.
Thanks. Sorry, Eric. Yeah, that was that was a miss on my part because we had that discussion too. Absolutely, I think it's important that all the council signs our signatories on the letter. You bet. Thank you.
Good class.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just like Mark said, things were going great. We had a great meeting there, and I think afterwards we talked to a couple of the people. There's a new chairman of the North County, and that's Darren Van Ray. And you know, it's we kind of talked about starting with a clean slate, and that was really important because there were some grievances there that some people just did not want to let go. But I think overall, through that the discussions that we had, they all realized that. You know, it's better for everybody if we just work together and get on it, and we can accomplish way more that way with each other. And I think that, like Eric said, it was the idea that the whole council was going to be behind the motion that we brought forward here.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just a question on the letter. Are they sending us one back then too, recognizing the fact that they have made mistakes in the past as well, or like I'm not sure of the purpose of this really.
So in response to Councillor Hickey, I think the letter is just to start the process and move this committee forward and not dwell in the past. Let's move forward and work together. So I don't think we need to get, we're trying to move forward and so it's not a back and forth letter writing campaign. This is just basically a letter from council saying we're wanting to work together to move forward and create this organization and increase the communication. That's the biggest problem in the past, was the lack of communication, the miscommunication. We were told historically there was, at one point it was really, everything worked well and it was good. So it's happened in the past. So that's what we're doing that's what the intent of this letter is, just to say, reach out to all these water commission or co-ops and say we're working together as a group to move forward and not keep going backwards. Does that help?
CAO Beck?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think the big thing is this is really an opportunity for us to formalize the intent that we're here to collaborate. We have common goals. We to move forward. I think there was a lack of I don't know what the right term is, but understanding what the county's intentions were, and we don't need to get into all of that. And so this is just to say, here's what we're trying to accomplish, and we're trying to accomplish it together. I think that was the general sentiment we received at that meeting, and this is our way to say, hey, let's formalize that discussion. We're in agreement. Let's carry forward.
Thank you, Cole. Mark, would you mind restating the motion?
I move that council send a letter to the 3 potable water co-ops to acknowledge the historic challenges that have existed in the past while expressing our intention and commitment to work collaboratively together for the betterment of potable water management in Lethbridge County in the future.
Thank you, Mark. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Mark, John, Claus, members of the liaison. Sorry I misspoke earlier. Co-op, not commission. Thank you for the work, and thank you for the co-ops for coming to the table with us, having this discussion, and look forward to what's to come down the road. So thank you all. G3.2, AUC solar approval. I believe, Mark, were you going to speak to this as well? Or maybe not? Okay. Go ahead, Cole.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So there were some concerns brought forward. This one, I mean, we have some general concerns and then some concerns specific to a development application. So right now, the way that it works is for solar development, there's essentially an opportunity for developers to bypass the county so they can go directly to the Alberta Utilities Commission. They can apply through them for approval, and then once they get approval, we're really limited in our opportunity to contest that. So we have a development that is just north of Coaldale that has been put forward. Council previously expressed concerns with the use of prime irrigated land. You know, our plan or our development plan does allow for some limited use, but we've said that, you know, we are really competing with this prime irrigated land. We have significant tax investments into developing irrigation in the region. I mean, our primary focus is agriculture and agri-food processing. As a result of that, it doesn't make sense for us to further take that land when there's other better land for development. So what we've done, previously council contested this with the AUC. The AUC sent us a letter that said they would have a hearing on August the 14th. The nature of that letter was essentially, the county has no standing, we'll have this hearing, but you still have no standing, so we'll let you come forward and contest it, but essentially it's irrelevant what we bring forward. And so this has come up, I believe, previously at RMA. I think many municipalities share our concerns with this, where the municipality should be in control of the development that makes the most sense for their ratepayers and the region. And so what we had discussed was the potential. We have a letter drafted from administration saying, back to the AUC, stating our concerns, the concerns we have with our bylaws, our development plans, and there was further discussion to say, should council or does council want to send a letter to the appropriate ministries expressing the concerns more generally with the process that the AUC's approval should be contingent on the municipality's approval, and then we can specifically reference that particular development, and I have it here. It's AUC applications 27769-A001 and 27769-A002. So we can specifically reference that as an example of what is happening, but we really need the process to change. So if we want to do that, I mean, there was general discussion. I know the complaint went to Councillor Sayers and to Reeve Campbell. So, you know, we had a preliminary discussion to say, do we want to send a letter to the appropriate ministries, which really would be the Ministry of Energy and Utilities would probably be the two that we would need to correspond with. So really up to council how you want to proceed. I mean, right now, based on the previous motion, we would be looking to send our letter to the AUC, but if you want to attach or anything to correspond with that, we just look for your direction.
Thank you. Got Claus and then John, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not happy at all with you know, that they're just going to have like the 14th of August they're going to come and they're just going to do their spiel there and taking no consideration of what the municipalities want. I know there was a resolution that went through at the RMA, and so we're hoping that something comes out of that. We haven't heard anything from that area yet, but to let them get away with what they've done to us in the past, I think that even over and above the resolution that was passed, I think over and above, we should send a letter there showing our discontent with what's going on there, and go as high up as we can with that, because the AUB looks like it's a dictatorship, and it seems like nobody has no control over them, and I'm very disappointed in that.
Thanks, Claus. John, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would kind of concur with what Claus has stated in that the largest situation with AUC is it's a problem that's larger than Lethbridge County. There is a lot of focus on it with RMA, but I hate to say it, when it comes to situations like these quasi-government organizations, their approval process tends to be, yeah, we're going to do what we want. And I think that the more correspondence that can hit ministers' desks on this in terms of being a squeaky wheel, I think the better chance we're going to have to actually see some positive changes on it. I sat in at the last RMA at a symposium with a number of representatives from from AUC, and they very consistently used words like, well, we encourage our members to talk with the county, and they should, rather than, they don't use language like mandated, must, you know, and that narrative has to change.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I agree with what you've said. The only thing is, I think we need to clearly point out that the Alberta government, as in the past, put a lot of money forward into the infrastructure for irrigated land, and it should be sent to the Minister of Agriculture, Energy, and the Premier as well, I think. Because you need to get the fact across that there's been a lot of money put forward already to improve irrigation and to have irrigation in the south, and then you just abandon it. Like, it seems like foolish waste of money. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Is there any further discussion? Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Just to add on, I would definitely support the letter, and strongly worded letter, and to all those ministries as well. There's a group of people in the county that feel that this council supports solar development. I don't know I'm not sure what that's all about. I assured the person I talked to that this council does not support any type of development on prime irrigated or agricultural land, especially irrigated land, given the fact that the government has invested all those dollars into the expansion of the irrigation system. So that's something that we just need to be cognizant of it, and I'm hoping those folks understand that now. So that letter would definitely help that, and I think we keep moving forward. We're not the only ones that are affected by this. Willow Creek has been affected by this, and I'm sure there's all sorts of other jurisdictions. When we had met with RMA and AUC presented there, it was blatantly obvious that they were just talking down to us, and yeah, it's that organization needs to be changed and retooled, and I think the government will be made aware of that by not just our county, but I think our role would be to just forward a letter and continue to push that, and RMA too as well. RMA needs to be pushed to keep advocating on our behalf too.
Thank you, Mark. Is there someone that'd be willing to make a motion? John, Lauren?
Happily, I'd like to move that a letter under the Reeves signature go out to the Minister of Agriculture, Energy, and Utilities.
Premier?
Covered that all that?
Premier?
And the Premier, expressing our concern with the lack of, what's the word I want to look at here? Lack of consideration for local municipalities' concerns regarding large-scale solar projects on prime agricultural land.
Good, Candace. Thank you, John. Any further discussion on that?
Nothing wrong with your hands.
If not, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. And maybe I'll just touch briefly on Mark's last comment there. I believe some of that criticism regarding the county's position was directed at me, and I can maybe address that. I have spoken recently in regards to our economic development strategy and the survey that's out, and I did mention the fact that renewables were an opportunity for Lethbridge County, and I do believe that. I do believe there's an opportunity, but as the CAO mentioned, I think we have to, the siting is the key consideration, and I feel that this council and I believe myself have been consistent in the fact that agriculture is the backbone of this municipality, especially where we are irrigated agriculture, and it's paramount that we protect those irrigated acres. And I've stood up in front of the entirety of RMA and said this to the government during a question period, that it is vitally important that we protect those acres. As Lauren suggested, there's been a significant taxpayer investment into bringing that irrigation water here, into building out that infrastructure. So in no uncertain terms, we support agriculture, and we will continue to advocate to protect that agricultural land from this type of development. Thank you. Go, John. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to expand on that a little bit, I don't think the county is anti-renewable energy in the sense, but there just has to be a logical time and place for this. You know, to take a prime high production piece of land and turn it into a solar array makes absolutely no sense from a food security standpoint, from a long-term agricultural standpoint. There are much better places to put large-scale solar arrays than on prime agricultural land, full stop.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. We have 5 pieces of correspondence under H. Maybe I'll just quickly kind of give the highlights of all of them. If there's anything you'd like to discuss or pull out, we can have that discussion. H1 correspondence, Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation main canal repairs. So we did send correspondence under the Reef signature to the Honorable R.J. Sigurdsson, Minister of Agriculture and Irrigation, regarding what was going on previously in the Lethbridge Northern Irrigation District. We are acutely aware that early season delays in water flow presented a challenge to growers in the LNID. I am pleased to report that flow rate at the LNID moved up to 30 cubic meters per second on June 6th and subsequently to 42.5 cubic meters per second on June 15th, 2023. The latter figure is very close to full capacity of the diversion canal. Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation is monitoring the growing conditions in LNID closely, and the department is in constant dialogue with the LNID leadership. Encouragingly, recent correspondence from the LNID Board of Directors to John Conrad, Assistant Deputy Minister, Primary Agriculture, detailed the board's agreement that there is no longer a need for a set-aside program. That's our first piece of correspondence. The second piece, Southern Alberta Chinese Association Summer Barbecue Invitation. So we received a invitation to the Rotary Picnic Shelter on August 19th, 2023 from noon till 5 p.m. The SACA's Summer Barbecue has been one of Lethbridge's major community events for decades. This year the event will be held on August 19th, again at the Rotary Picnic Shelter. We cordially invite you and colleagues to join us at this event. Third item, the town of Pincher Creek Parade invitation. So we've received an invitation to the Pincher Creek Parade. It has not been practiced in the past to attend parades outside of the county. However, this is here for your information. Item 4, Shoes for Kids, YQL sponsorship request. Shoes for Kids YQL Foundation was created in 2021 with the objective of serving Southwest Alberta and surrounding Indigenous communities by providing low socioeconomic and poverty barriered children and youth with new footwear. Our mission statement, Shoes for Kids YQL Foundation believes every child deserves to go back to school with a brand new pair of runners. We are hosting our 3rd annual shoe drive on Saturday, August 19th from 10 a.m. to 2 at Dunlop Ford. And then there's a list of various sponsorship opportunities. Item 5, the Town of Colehurst invitation to the Miners' Day Parade. So we have received a formal invitation from the Town of Colehurst. This year the parade will take place on Saturday, August 26, 2023, and I believe as in the past we will be participating in that parade. Is there anything you would like to pull out or discuss from that correspondence? Claus?
Just with the parades that we're invited to, the town of Pincher Creek. I think that we made a decision on that one a little while ago that we were not going to go outside of our county boundaries to parades and stuff like that, I think.
Great. Thank you. Anything else? Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in regards to the Shoes for Kids, have we traditionally contributed to any sponsorship on that?
I would look to administration. No, we have not. Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Talking about these parades in the area, Picture View, did they send a request for us to have the float in the Picture View parade? I did believe it's on the 19th. Pardon me?
Yes, yes. Yes, they have, Morris. Candace said they have, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What about the Southern Alberta Chinese Association? Anybody interested in going to that?
Yeah, just make a motion.
for that.
I would defer to council how you'd like to handle it, Lauren.
Yeah, I would go.
Yeah.
I would say just if
Yeah.
anybody that wants to go, just go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from this correspondence? If not, we will move on. Item I, County Council and committee updates. So we have our updates before us in our agenda. I will start Division 1. Councillor Lauren Hickey. Lauren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, just like to say about the Lethbridge Coaldale 4-H Beef Club 100th Anniversary Banquet. That was, I thought, very well attended, and I thought it was a great event, recognizing the contributions 4-H has made to agriculture and to the community over 100 years, and how many people have graduated and go on to great careers because of the training and the community involvement they get from 4-H. I think it's an excellent program, and I would encourage any young people to join the 4-H club. The Green Acres Abbey Road Terrace tour was just before it opened for their apartment buildings over there, and they did an excellent job of converting that old nunnery to an apartment-style building, and they're adding on a piece on the north end of it as well. It's a new construction, and it will have, I think, 7 apartments in it. And the rest...
Where was that hall?
It's, I gotta think of the address. It's not too far from LCI. It's south of LCI. You know where the Pentecostal church is there? It's just right in behind in there. Attended the FCS strategic planning. That was a very large crowd. They asked all of their staff, along with the directors, and I mean all of their staff. Everybody was there. There was well over 100 people in attendance to sit at a round table and have a discussion with a group. It was quite interesting, and I think all directors learned a great deal about the operation of the organization, and it too is a great organization, and just the number of people they're helping is unbelievable. And other than that, it's just regular things. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Division 2, I would maybe speak to, had a few engagements with Exhibition Park. We had a regular board meeting, as well as an ownership engagement committee meeting. All the attention right now is being placed on next week, with the official, the grand opening taking place next Thursday on the 10th. Followed that by the 12th with a grand opening for the public. So exciting times. I was able to go through the building last week. They offered our CAO Colbeck a tour, and I tagged along on that. And it's really exciting to see how that building is taken shape. There's been some big strides, big push here towards the end. There's still work to do, I won't lie, but big next couple of days with moving in and some finishing touches for next week. Landscaping is very much underway. Paving, all that kind of hardscape work outside is complete. So it's exciting times at the exhibition, and I think that it's going to be very exciting to get the public into that building, and everyone can see, what's been happening there and the opportunity that lies ahead. So very excited for that. The 13th, attended Link Pathway groundbreaking ceremony. Again, that was a lot of time, a lot of work put into getting to that point. I'm hopeful that things will keep progressing and there'll be actual pathway taking place sooner rather than later. Big things ahead there as well. the Southern Regional Stormwater Drainage Committee meeting. We had a governance and partnership formalization workshop. Attended that in 7 persons. That group is working to develop a governance model where it's a little less reliant on, in this case, the MD of Tabor to take on the heavy lifting, maybe try and share that burden, and working through various iterations as to what that might look like, whether that's a co-op, municipally controlled corporation. There is still work to be done, but to this point it's been very positive. The 22nd, I attended the South Grow AGM. That was also a really nice event held in Colehurst. Guest speaker was the former director for the Sugar Beet Growers Association, Melody Skiba Garner. It was great to hear Mel speak about some of the opportunities that lie ahead in agriculture, and what that means to Southern Alberta. And yeah, that pretty much, those are the highlights of the month. With that, I would throw to Division 3, Councillor Mark Sayers. Oh yeah, go ahead, Klaus.
Just a question on your, you didn't mention that one. The virtual meeting on the rural medical education expansion, what came out of that one?
Sure. So Cole and I were asked to participate in a Zoom meeting around just that, expanding the capacity for education, medical education. I think still very much in the infancy, and the point reaching out to local officials, seeing if there would be for support for such a thing, but essentially building capacity where they can train medical students, like for instance for us at the University of Lethbridge, in the hopes of training them here, integrating them into the community at a younger age as they go through their education, and then in the hopes of keeping them here once they're finished. Is there anything you'd want to add to that, Cole?
I mean, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think just a big part of it was being able to share concerns based on our demographics and everything else, which are very similar to those found in the small urbans in the city. So, access to long-term care facilities, things like that. So it was, I think they were gauging our, how the county could support or what that might look like, but I don't think they had much there for us to really get into. I mean, we expressed that, and it was, we would need more from them to have more productive discussions. So like Reeve Campbell said, it was very much in the infancy, general discussions, and we haven't heard from them since June. So I don't anticipate probably for a year or so we'll see much more from them.
Mark?
Just a couple highlights. Like Lauren said, the 100th anniversary banquet was great. That was a lot of fun. It was nice to have that space there. Good to see a lot of folks from back in the day. I didn't realize how old I was until all the kids that I was leader. There are kids in the clubs now, so that was kind of a bit of a jaw dropper. But anyway, great way to finish off the weekend for the kids, and they all had a great time. So, and thanks to the county for coming up for John to speak on behalf of the county. Did a great job, and so thanks for that. The Bursary Review Committee, that was great. I always love doing it every year. This is the second year we've done that, and it's great. This year it was encouraging to see the number of applications and the increase in the quality. Last year there was good applicants, but this year was some really excellent. And so thanks to the council and for approving the expansion of that program and the dollars too. So I'm suspecting next year it'll be similar. So and then also the South Grove AGM. I think what Corey had said is that Melody's speech was amazing. I was really impressed. It just kind of set time for food for thoughts. Anyway, that's my report.
Thank you, Mark. Division 4, Deputy Reeve John Curbis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sort of along the same lines, and I'm sorry it's not noted on here because when I was doing up my attendance, I completely glazed over the 4-H, but that was a wonderful event, and it was very appreciated that I was able to participate and bring greetings on behalf of the county. And congratulations to 4-H for 100 years of continuous operations in that club. And I think that's a remarkable feat, and it should be celebrated and screamed from all the rooftops that we can. And again, the Bursary Review Committee, that work I find very, very rewarding, and it gotten tougher because the quality of the applicants and the volume of the applicants that have come in is becoming better and better every year that I sit on that. So, and it's very rewarding to see the young people that can actually benefit from that. And I appreciate the fact that we as council have expanded that to 3 and look forward to that carrying on for a good number of years. And lastly, June 28th, I attended the Community Futures, and it was their AGM as well as a regular meeting, and I have been elected chairman of the board of Community Futures for the next year. So,
Congratulations. Thank you, John. Division 5, Councillor Eric Van Essen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not too many meetings of any of my special organizations. The one that I missed putting into the calendar was June 16th with the LNID 100th anniversary down at Coyote Flats in Picture Butte, and good to be there. Good to see 100 years of participation and growth, developing the industry that now so well supports our agriculture, and we're never more aware of it than this spring when there's a lack of it. So appreciate that, and yeah, quiet month.
Thanks, Eric. Division 6, Councillor Klaas Vanderveen.
Yeah, so June 1st, I had my first Link Pathway meeting there, and they made me a voting member. I don't know if I really liked that, but I mean, I guess that was expected. Then we had the Link Pathway, the groundbreaking ceremony, like Tori mentioned, and that was actually I found very exciting. And we've seen the mayor of Coaldale wave his check around there, and I was a little disappointed that our Reeve didn't wave our $150,000 check there, because it kind of looked like it fell in that thing there. But anyway, then of course we had the L&D 100th anniversary, and I was able to give some greetings there, and it was on a positive note, because everybody thought it was going to be kind of a little bit of a depressing thing because of all that was going on that year. But I think it was great, and the emphasis was not put on on the negativity. Everything was put on the positive side, which was really great. The only thing I found is that after that, I could not find, like in the Sunny South or anything like that, I could not find any updates or anything of the LNID that they had their anniversary. And I think that's too bad, because I mean, it's a 100-year anniversary, and it's really important, and I think we should you should be proud of that. And yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you, Klaas. Division 7, Councillor Morris Eenstra. Morris.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Westwind, County Highway Street Training Development Association, Picture View Chamber of Commerce, Westwind County Council meeting again, and Picture View Ag Society, and the Paddy Factor Parade. I was into that one too, and it was kind of neat. And this year, the truck that I was driving didn't make it again.
You studying for auctioneer?
And the other one is the LNID 100-year celebration. I was there too, and matter of fact, I was at one time I was for 17 years on the LNID board, and yeah.
The first 17?
Well, thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to call that to a close. Thank you, everyone.
I attended to, but it's probably to no interest of anybody, so I won't mention anything.
Oh, I appreciate your county council attendance updates, everyone. Thank you. In all seriousness, thank you all. I do think this is an important thing that we do, that we discuss these and have these conversations. I think it's important that the public sees that we are out in the community, and I want to extend a huge thank you to council. Like, I get it. We have families, we have lives, we have jobs, and it's hard. It's hard to make time, so I really appreciate how dedicated you all are to the community and getting out there. And just on a personal note, a big thank you to council for supporting me. I know I was gone for a few weekends in June. 4-H, for instance, and the LNID, some pretty big milestones here in the county, and I want to thank John, Lauren, Mark, Claus, Morris, Eric, everyone that attended and supported and showed that the county was there, spoke on behalf of the county. Just like to thank you all for that. Thank you, Mark. And moving forward, as we creep into harvest here, I probably will lean on you again, just as my time becomes a little more stretched. So I just appreciate everything that you do for this community, and thank you for what you do for me as well, supporting the REEV. I appreciate it. If there is nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you very much, Morris. We will adjourn at 11:21 a.m. this morning. Thank you, Candace. Thank you, Cole. Thank you, everyone.